Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. In just a moment, we're going to begin the funeral service for Bernadine A. Berk. Please keep in mind that following the service, there'll be a Shiva in the North Chapel, so you'll get to spend much more time with the family. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream. Bless you, Rabbi. We welcome those of you who are joining us live stream. And for those of you who are here in the chapel, please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off not to disturb the sacred funeral ceremony. Rabbi Andrea London from Beth Emet, the Free Synagogue, will be officiating. Again, just as a last and gentle reminder, please be sure your phones are off.
Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini balamot, lechen samach libi ve'yegel kivodi, ach besorish kon levetach. The psalmist taught, I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. At this time of grief and sorrow, we also come to give our thanks to God for the 92 years of Bernadine Berk's life, a full life including 71 years of marriage to her beloved Jerry, raising of 3 children and 5 grandchildren and even 3 great-grandchildren, a full life filled with love and kindness and compassion. We are so grateful at this time of loss and of sorrow and of grief. Death has taken our beloved Bernie. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Bernie's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, and light as in darkness, and joy as in sorrow, and life as in death. Adonai roi lo echsar binotesh yarbitzeni. Al mei menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yoshovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech begetzo mavat lo yirara. Ki ata imadi. Please join me in the English for the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Leidahi reshit uftirat hachlit, hachayim kamasahem, kaharicha kitzmicha mishalev mishalev. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey. a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Leidahir reshtit uftirat hachlit, v'hachaim k'masahim, aliak dosha, shalav achar shalav, mileida liftira l'chei olam haba. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. And now we take this time together to share stories and memories, the legacy that Bernie Berk leaves in this world, the sacred journey that was her life. I'd like to invite her granddaughter, Tiffany Snyder, to speak.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. For those that don't know me, I'm Tiff, her favorite granddaughter. To many, she was Bernadine, Bern if you were Aunt Fran, but some of her favorites call her Grandma. As the only one of the grandchildren that is an only child, I had to be different. So for me, she was my Nana. I've always been so proud to call her that, and I still am, honestly, because that kind of pride doesn't just fade. And let's face it, she was an icon. Even though she's not here physically, well, I mean, she's there physically, but even though she's not here physically after today, she is going to be here for a variety of reasons. I know she's going to be here for a variety of reasons, because I can't stress this enough, she was a legend. And legends don't just disappear. Plus, let's be real, she always had to be in the know and know what was going on. So no way she's missing that right now. Last week I called my Nana, and for the first time I didn't get an answer. A couple of days went by, and I had a gut feeling that we should hop on a plane and go see her. I debated a little bit, but I knew Nana didn't want me questioning my gut. She always taught us to follow our guts, and thank goodness I did. When I said my goodbyes, my partner asked me what I wanted to remember her by. So when I needed a little pick-me-up, he knew what to talk about. Honestly, I really didn't have an answer, because how do you sum up somebody like her? I was lucky enough to have millions of memories, lessons, and moments with her, but if I had to narrow it down to some themes that come to mind, I would say ice cream, driving, strength, style, and lessons. Let's start with some ice cream. If you know my Nana, you know she didn't play around when it came to her ice cream. If there were multiple flavors in the house, you had to finish one before opening another, or you'd get a stern talking to. But why? Because there would be less ice cream for her, obviously. Sorry. I just X'd out of it, 1 second. Nana's favorite ice cream was coffee, but not to worry, she did not discriminate. When I started at Penn State, I took her to the creamery on campus, and let me tell you, I apparently ruined ice cream for her for life. She said all other ice cream tasted like water in comparison, and she wasn't wrong. The Penn State Creamery is flavorful, creamy, and perfect, and it trained Ben & Jerry's. So I shipped her coffee ice cream from Penn State whenever I could, and it arrived rock solid and remained that way until you let it sit out for at least an hour. But that never stopped her from her favorite treat, and that's how she got her workout in. Our late-night ice cream runs to Hardigan's were so much fun, and it didn't matter if it was snowing outside, ice cream was still happening. If it was cold and icy, we still went, and she made me drive so she could stay warm and let me do the parking and drop her off at the curb. Smart lady. Speaking of driving, Nana didn't really love it, but she started to drive and got her license to get us grandkids where we needed to be. Once we all got our permits, she handed over the keys. But don't let that fool you, she was no grandma behind the wheel. She had a need for speed. And when I was about to get my license, she heard that the Virginia State driving test did not include parallel parking. And she thought that was the stupidest thing that they could do. So what did she do? She told me to get into the car, drove us to downtown Chicago on one of the busiest streets on Michigan Avenue, and got out into oncoming traffic and pointed to a space and told me to park there. Talk about trial by fire, but that was her nature. She loved to teach us how to think on her feet. With her coaching, I nailed it and somehow did it perfectly, and she was proud. I did have to confess to her that now with the backup camera, I no longer can parallel park. I needed her to manage her expectations, so when she's looking down, she didn't have to find out that way that parking was no longer my forte, when it used to be my biggest party trick. Nana was no grandma behind the wheel, as I've said before, and she sure wasn't a grandma in her eye for design. Her house was always put together, her outfits were on trend, and they made her look younger. Nana was my favorite shopping buddy, hands down. She is the reason I know how to dress myself and put an outfit together. I would fly to her every spring break, and we would get new outfits for the year. Even after retiring from Marshall Fields, well into her 90s, she stayed up on the trends. We had a running joke that my mom was not the person for fashion advice. Nana always said, "Your mom's a square," which still cracks me up, and I hold it over her every day. Her and I had a deal. She was supposed to stick around to help me pick out my wedding dress, which was really funny because at the time when we made the deal, I wasn't remotely close to that point. I literally was 12 years old, and she always told me not to get married, so that was even more funny. Every time we talked a lot. I always reminded her of the deal. I'd always say, make sure you take your walks, drink your water, remember our deal. She always responded with, of course, I wouldn't miss it because we cannot trust your mother. Even last year, I told her she had to hang around at least another 10 years, and maybe that was her deterrent, but maybe that was also my way to get her to stick around as long as possible. As time went on, I saw how tired she was getting, and I let her out of the deal, as long as she sends me a clear sign that when I found the right dress when the time came, to give me a little light flicker, maybe a sale at the wedding dress shop, or some sign that would hit me in the face. But really, Nana could do no wrong, and if she needed to, I would let her out of that deal too. Nana wasn't just iconic. She always showed up for birthdays, surgeries, school plays, random visits, even to organize our closets halfway across the country. You name it, she was there. When I was in middle school, she came to all 3 shows when I was in Into the Woods. And when I turned 1, she flew all the way across the world to Australia. When my mom had surgery, she was in Virginia. She always said, do for the living so you don't live in regret when they're gone. And then, most importantly, there was her strength. Let's start with the obvious, cancer. She beat it twice before, and she did it while being the true matriarch of this family. Nana was never afraid to take up space. She always was unapologetically herself, and that energy was spread to my mom and all of her grandkids. She taught us to think on our feet, never be afraid to have an opinion, and trust me, she had an opinion, which came in handy many times in designing my house, in designing my outfits, and basic decisions that my mom said, figure it out on yourself. I'll never stop hearing her say, no, I don't believe in that, when she didn't want to go with the status quo. Nana would tell you what she meant, and she taught me to do the same, building up my confidence in every way, whether it was yelling at the presidential debate like it was a Super Bowl, or declaring that's very stupid of them. She did not mince her words. But while I remember her most for her wisdom, Nana didn't believe in mistakes. only learning experiences. She didn't dwell on the past, play the what-if game. It was always onward and upward. Honestly, I could talk for days about my Nana, but at the end, I'll end with this. My mom always said, a baby is born every time somebody leaves this earth, and that soul lives on. So whoever gets her soul in this next life is going to be one lucky duck. And I hope they take good care of the light that she always had and protect that light that she carried so effortlessly. Nana, thank you so much for blessing me and being the best Nana a girl could ask for, the best memories, and I hope heaven is giving you as much Penn State coffee ice cream as you want. And not to worry, you'll always be with me in my outfits, my lessons learned, my memories. I'm gonna go ahead and under-promise on the parallel parking situation, but most importantly, in my heart.
I'd now like to invite Bernie's son, Jeff, to speak.
Ira, can you stand up here for a quick second and join me? Not for the whole thing, just a little bit. No, come on up here. Face the crowd. This is Ira. I'm Jeff. I just don't want any of you confused later on when we go to the Shiva. In case you see us on the streets, he has brown eyes, I have blue eyes. His Audi is white, mine is blue.
Is that it?
You got something? Thank you. I don't see the resemblance, but some have told me it's there. So now you know I'm Jeff. You've met Ira. Many of you met our sister Terry when you walked through the receiving line. Thank you all for being here. Thank you those of you that have Christmas events to go to. We appreciate you being here today. Eulogies generally provide a small glimpse into the lives the people have led and the impact that they've left. Some are world impacts, some are art impacts, some are just simple impacts. Our mom, Bernie, Bernadine, Mom, Bern, whatever the names are, as Tiff said, to us she was simply Mom. Nothing heroic, nothing earth-shattering, but in every way that mattered, she was extraordinary to us. She cared for the three of us. She also helped with our children, and in the last decade of her life, found great joy in her 3 grandchildren. She was a wife, a sister, an aunt, a friend, and most important to us, a mom. She did mom things mothers do and wife things that were expected in the 1960s and 1970s. Until 1976, that changed. What happened in 1976? Well, America celebrated its bicentennial. Apple and Microsoft were incorporated, and Water Tower Place opened. Our mom started working part-time at the Marshall Fields of Water Tower that year. She quickly transitioned to full-time work, eventually joined the buying office, where she enjoyed a 20-plus year career, retiring at 65. She loved her job. She excelled at it. She was friendly with her coworkers, well-respected, and a mentor to some. She was a good friend and a trusted listener. Different generation. Tiffany used her phone, I used paper. Outside of work, she enjoyed staying current with social trends through television, newspaper, and magazines. She loved knowing what was happening beyond her generation in music, fashion, and sports, though her sports knowledge was not so great. She volunteered at Children's Memorial Hospital, where she held babies after work. Just last month, she reminisced with our daughter, her granddaughter Lainey, about her time in the hospital, sharing fond memories of comforting those little ones. She adored holding babies. Last night, Lainey found a photo of our mom holding her first grandson, Oliver, at Alyssa and Mike's apartment shortly after he was born. I don't know if you remember that, guys, but Lainey happened to be there. And just last month, Jana's son, Nico, was in town and was playing in her house with her salad bowls and handing those salad bowls to our mom, and she was delighted in that story and told it for weeks on end. In retirement, she embraced her role as a grandmother. She attended Joel, Alyssa, Jana, and Lainey's games and events and shows. She traveled to Virginia to see Tiffany's performances and was a regular at Jana's ice skating practices. Sitting with her during those practices gave us time to simply enjoy each other, cherish the moments in a continuation of a mother-son bond that was started when I was a child. She was always happy to help when needed, whether it was picking up the kids, driving them to practices, Hebrew school, or play dates. Lainey shared how much she loved listening to Mamma Mia during those car rides. I don't get the Mamma Mia thing, but whatever. She took Lainey on the L to see a friend perform in a Christmas carol at the Joffrey Ballet. Our mom also loved riding the L. Her father was a train conductor on the L while attending dental school, so the L had sentimental value to her. She might be the only one in the world that has sentimental value to the L. She took each of us downtown when we were little. I remember being 5 years old, taking the L downtown to see the Marshall Field's Christmas windows. As she and our dad aged, they supported each other through difficult health challenges. Over the last 5 years, these same challenges seem to have brought them closer together. I vividly remember the deep hug they shared when Mom returned from rehab this past summer. It was heartwarming to see their love reemerge after 71 years together. A few words about you, Dad. Since Mom's cancer became untreatable, and especially over the last 2 weeks, you've been a champion. You were at her side until the end. Dad, you are strong. I know you'll keep up your routines at home, attend Tuesday Rotary meetings, Thursday breakfasts, and Mel Group events. But we also know you will miss her very much. To those of you here that pick them up and bring them home from lunches, breakfasts, and events, thank you. Ira, Terry, and I really appreciate your companionship and your help. I can't remember who said this to me a few Thursdays ago when I picked my dad up for breakfast, but you summed it up well. Jeff, if you ask your dad what time it is, you'll learn where the watch came from, how old the watch is, and how it works, but you still won't know what time it is. Mom, you led a simple and impactful life. You'll be remembered by so many for your quiet acts of love and understanding. You're now reunited with Poppy, Nanny, and your sister Fran. Rest in peace. We all love you.
Thank you, Jeff and Tiffany, for your beautiful reminiscences and the incredible love that you shared with Bernie. When Bernie's daughter, Terry, was in college, she was threatening to drop out, but Bernie wouldn't let her. When Ira was young and getting bullied, Bernie stood up for him. This was something that she did for all of her children, was to instill confidence and to teach them to stand up for themselves. Bernie was a stay-at-home mom when children Ira, Terry, and Jeff were young, and Jerry traveled a lot for work and also served in the National Guard. And she, as we have heard, was always there for her family. Every performance, even if it was to see Into the Woods 3 times, graduations, sporting events, to give somebody a ride, to pick you up for an appointment, Bernie showed up. She was even a second mom to their neighbors in Evanston after their mother died. Yes, Bernie was known for her compassion, resilience, kindness, and love. She knew what was going on with everyone and kept them up to date on other family members. 4 of her 5 grandchildren are female, and she thought it important to teach them to be strong and to take up space and to be opinionated. Mistakes, as we heard, for Bernie were learning experiences, and she was always very honest. She would say, "I don't believe in that," and then you'd find out what she thought. When she went to work when Jeff was in high school, and as we heard from Jeff, she worked as a manager and then a buyer for Marshall Fields, and she had a career of 20 years there, and she loved it, and she thrived and was successful. Bernie was born and raised in Chicago. Her maiden name was Weintraub. She had one older sister, Fran. She and Jerry married 6 months after they met and were married for 71 years. Together, they successfully raised 3 children and instilled in them great confidence, knowing that their mother was by their side, standing up for them and teaching them to stand up for themselves, and 5 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. And we heard about her love for ice cream as well. As we say goodbye to her today, tonight we celebrate the first night of Hanukkah, a holiday in our Jewish tradition in which we learn to stand up for what we believe in. But the Maccabees said, "We will not assimilate. We are proud of who we are, and we want to remain different." That was who Bernie was in her life, someone who was proud of who she was and wanted to make others around her proud of who they were, and also a person who brings light into the world. Bernie was a person who made the journeys of the lives of the people she touched brighter. As we light these Hanukkah candles tonight and increase that light in the world, we thank God for the light that Bernie brought to our lives, how she taught those who loved her to be self-confident, to stand up for themselves, and to be who they are. All the important messages of this holiday we are about to celebrate. And so we gather today to say goodbye with a great deal of sadness and with appreciation in our hearts. To you, Jerry, that you were by each other's side for 71 years. May you be comforted with all of the memories you have of her at this difficult time. And to you, Ira and Terry and Jeff and Susie and Rana, may you know that she was there by your side, supporting and loving you and loving your children. And to her grandchildren, Jana, Lainey, Joel, Alyssa, and Tiffany, and her great-grandchildren, Nico, Oliver, and Leo, know how much she delighted in you and how her memory still lives in you as you are now her legacy of all the wonderful lessons she taught and the kindness, love, and compassion that she shared. May that continue to reside in your hearts as you remember her with great love and with great fondness. When we do this, then truly her memory will be a blessing, as we say, Zichrona livracha. May her memory bless those who knew and loved her. We now take a moment as we think about Bernie and bring her family who is grieving into our hearts to offer them a silent prayer, a prayer for comfort, a prayer that Bernie might continue to bless them, a prayer for Bernie's soul as well. Please take a moment to do so. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way. But you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. O God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and of your glory. If you are able, I invite you to rise at this time for the memorial prayer and for mourners Kaddish. El melera chamim shochen bam romim ham semen uchanu chanatachat kanfei ashchina. Im kerushim utoharim kazar rakia masirim et nishmat Bernadine bat Samuel veli shel chal olama. Bal harachamim yasireha baseter kanafav olamim vitzor b'torah chaim et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Bernadine, daughter of Samuel and Lee, to Bernadine Berk, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. And now we will continue together the words of Mourners Kaddish, a paean of praise to God, in which we pray that God will bestow upon us peace and comfort at this time of grief and sorrow. Please join me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabba, v'alma divrach cherute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'alam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'ruichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'miran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, huyaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. O God, who makes peace in places far beyond our knowing or understanding, send peace to all those who mourn, and comfort to the bereaved among us, as together we say, Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment is private. Everyone is invited to the North Chapel momentarily for Shiva. Memorial contributions in her memory to Beth Emet, the Free Synagogue, or Hadassah Midwest. For those of you who are joining us online, that information is on the funeral home's website. For those of you who are here, it's on the service folder that you received upon entering the chapel. At this time, I invite everyone to please rise and stand in place as we ask the grandchildren to come forward to serve as pallbearers and the family to follow. They're going to be in the North Chapel for a moment. The rabbi is going to perform the ceremony of Kriya. Then we'll open up the doors and you can enter and see the family. This concludes the service.